back from my parents, we decided to take the scenic route and avoid the M6 southbound rat race. When Mummy and Daddy take up Holy Mother Church's teaching on contraception, you find yourself compelled to take the scenic route. Children will slow you down, irritate you, make things take longer. Our modern world seems to keep our minds firmly fixed on all the disadvantages their little lives seem to offer. As many parents have discovered throughout history, that when you're able to provide a simple, happy childhood for them, they walk you through a gate from this world to another. They are the gatekeepers to one of the few tickets out of all this madness. We're all kept so frightened of having the little blighters, racing around to meet the world's standards for having them, that we readily cash in our best twigs for the nest. Our youth, our time, and innocence. One day God will ask us, married couples, did you have faith in me? And for all my many sins, I want to say, before the chance left me, I had the children you sent me.
And this is one of 9. Thanks for joining us. Today we are with Lucy. She's married to Craig. They've got 3 lovely children and they live up in Scotland, in Inverness. And we've come to visit them. And this is our first filming trip where we've just brought the baby. And we have just come by ourselves. So thank you so much for our kind donors who have supported our work, because it's because of you that we've been able to do this particular video and do all of our videos.
Elgin Cathedral was burnt down by the Wolf of Badenoch, and he was a bit of a local rogue. And then it also got sacked by the Lords of the Isles, who were like Viking raiders almost. But even though it's a ruin, it's still got this draw. And they do actually the odd mass in there. And I haven't been yet, but I imagine it's beautiful doing it in the ruins with the monks there from Plusgarden. And yeah, and the convent is really central to everyone's faith because they catechize everyone. We did the pilgrimage with them and everyone stops and talks to them and they're really friendly and American. And
so did you move to Elgin before you knew?
No, I didn't know that the convent was there. I didn't even really know that the Plusgarden was here. And I'd only just been really coming back to Mass. I hadn't gone out for communion or anything down south. Just been sitting at the back, just going. And when we came up here, I was like, right, I want to be back in the church. I want to be in the church. I want to be confirmed. I want everyone in the family to be confirmed.
And this was a year ago?
Yeah, just over a year. And we looked into it, and I met like a home educator here, and she said, "Oh, have you met the sisters?" I was like, "No." And then she told me about them, and we went for tea with them, and got all the children in their catechesis classes, and then we've been doing catechism as well on Zoom.
Oh, so they're doing it with you?
Yeah, it gets a bit confusing because we see them like every week, several times a week. So
And then you book in for Zoom?
yeah, they're like, us again.
Nos peregrines quid fecimus ad peccata
So my mum was a single mother, and she's sort of a bit of a new age, old hippie. So I was sort of raised with that sort of foundation of, if you can call anything new age foundational, but you know what I mean, like it's
Yeah, that was your foundations of growing up.
Yeah, and so that was sort of my outlook for a long time. And even though I did come, like, pop into different churches throughout my youth. When I was really little, I went and sat in on a church once, I remember, and they made me hot chocolate. And this was just me walking around my estate, and every now and again...
Maybe Church of England?
Yeah, it was some old ladies, and, you know, there were different times that I visited churches, and then Craig wanted to go into the church. And
so you'd been married for some years?
Yeah, I got married when I was 19. He was 24. And we had Isla, our first, a year later.
How come? What's special about him?
And
So look, just on that,
yeah,
was that part of, I want to heal this world?
I
It's got
feel
that, you know,
like,
and you had
yeah,
a kid as well, so you're
yeah.
countercultural already.
I feel like my lean towards traditional values was definitely a reaction to, you know, how things were when I was younger. And, you know, my mum suffered quite a lot and with domestic violence, and I was there for that. So, are you turning around?
Yeah.
Why?
Got 10 minutes.
Oh,
Because Father Giles will be on a strict time, won't he?
okay. So will we continue?
Yeah,
You can keep
we'll
videos.
chat this way.
Okay, all right.
Unless you want to wait till Craig's out of earshot.
Yeah?
And my other Lord of the Rings toys.
Yes. Big Lord of the Rings family. That was actually my engagement ring was the Gladriel's ring. Lord of the Rings.
As well.
Yeah. I don't wear it because it's too big, but
As well.
Which one?
Leg glasses.
go on then. You run with Dad.
I have a crush on him.
He is.
I have a crush on leg glass.
Oh, so you were exploring new agey things, or at least
Yeah.
that was a way
Sort of. That was
for you.
my approach
Sorry, Peter, you're just going to go that.
to spiritual sort of life. For
I want to jump bench.
go on then. Go. Run. For sort of a long time, like I didn't really know any other approach, and then I suffered with a lot of anxiety growing up, and still until quite recently, a lot of anxiety, a lot of attempts to heal wounds.
And new agey pagan practices.
So the New Age has become a way that people try to heal themselves, I think. It's more of a self-help cult than a religious practice these days.
Then paganism is more than the religious belief.
Paganism, I think, is like an animist approach these days, where you sort of worship the creation rather than the creator.
Yeah.
I feel like that is...
Would you tip between both, or would you?
Yeah, I
be
think
more...
so. Yeah, I think we did have a group of friends, but we didn't perform like rituals or anything like that. You just sort of got together, usually based on the Celtic wheel of the year. So it would be, I can't even remember it anymore, Lunasar, Samhain, Imbolc. Can't remember the other one. So yeah, so you sort of got together then and sort of had a bit of, ate and had a fire and things like that. But you didn't really, there was no ritual element really.
Yeah.
Because I think that paganism in the modern world doesn't understand sacrifice anymore. So I think that the only real living religion is Catholicism. It's because the sacrifice of the Mass is at the centre of it, and that's stands alone, I think, in the modern world.
So you wouldn't get into anything too dark, like if you heard about something like that, there's going to be some sort of sacrifice of, I don't know, would they sacrifice animals or something?
Maybe they would, but I think most people tried to offer, leaving like an apple or something like that, when you go to like Clootie Wells, have you ever seen those?
I've never heard of it.
Where like
Is it?
there's material on the trees and things like that. People would leave, so at Avebury Stone Circle, people would leave bits of material with like prayers or like little statues or little stones. So you sort of tried to look for synchronicity and meaning in everyday things. I think that's probably the crux of it, which isn't bad in itself.
But that being the entire focus.
But it's there's nothing to it.
Yeah.
You don't get anywhere.
So would you give prayers? Would you have a prayer? Like when you meditate, you're petitioning
Maybe
for something.
Maybe, yeah, but because the New Age is syncretic in that they'll use any name from any culture to name an energy or a feeling even. So lots of people in the New Age really like to talk about like Eros or they've like reinvented like Mary Magdalene and and so they sort of...
And they'd call her Mary Magdalene, but
they would, but then they'd had this like blasphemous idea about who she is and like what she... So spiritualism has melded with psychology in that now the spirits and the gods and whatnot are sort of archetypes. So, have you ever heard of Carl Jung? So Carl Jung, yeah. So he sort of came up with the idea of archetypes. And so people have attributed psychological ideas to gods and spirits and fairies and things like that, if that make any sense.
So they use Mary Magdalene in that way somehow.
She's sort of I'm not even really sure, but they also have this idea of the Black Madonna being sort of a mother goddess, being like the earth goddess and things like that. So they just sort of make stuff up as they go along.
Yeah. And then would they be happily work or anything? And so you'd hear, oh, there's guardian angels. Oh, what's this angel thing?
Yeah. They would talk about angels. They would talk about Christ consciousness. I don't really know what that means in their world. I think it means making yourself a god. I think that's what it means, really.
So it had some appreciation for Christianity.
Yeah, I think somehow
took it and twisted it all up and...
I think what they do is because the New Age is predicated on a sort of a plurality of truths and
anything goes.
Helena Blavatsky she created Theosophy, and that's sort of where it all stems from, and they believed that you could get this sort of hidden Gnostic wisdom from any religion or any culture, you know, all have threads of truth running through. It's sort of anything goes. And they've even rehabilitated Lucifer as sort of a Promethean character, who, you know, gives knowledge and things like that.
Whoa.
So yeah, that can come into it as well. It depends what sort of New Ager you are. Some of them are just sort of focused on nature, and some of them are more focused on
These archetypes.
And
then how real those archetypes might be for them.
Yeah. It's all centred on yourself. That's the problem, I think.
So for you, it was about...
Yeah, because you're trying to heal
self-healing.
something, you know, you're trying to heal something. So you actually just become extremely self-centred. And it's all about yourself, and you're trying to get all these practices, and you do all this work. You do your trauma work, your womb work, your ancestral work, you do light work. And so it's really interesting because they don't believe in sin, but there's this constant need for healing. So it's like...
From what?
That doesn't make sense, does it? You know, you don't believe in sin, you don't believe in
things that
forgiveness, but you're constantly healing. So
what are you healing
that doesn't
from?
make sense, really. And then...
So where did you start seeing the cracks? Or did you... So was it about 8 years ago that Craig then came into the church? A bit longer?
Yeah,
years?
we got...
8, 9 years?
We did get baptised, and I wanted to believe, but I think because it wasn't who I thought I was, you know, and I wanted to do it because he wanted to do it. I wasn't like against the church or anything like that, because I hadn't been raised in it at all, so I didn't really have this
preconceived bad ideas.
Sort of bad ideas about it.
Yeah.
And
but Craig was already on that journey. He wanted to be in.
And he sort of started getting into philosophy then, and I think that's what drew him away, sort of Nietzsche. And,
from the paganism.
Yeah, well, from the church.
So then he got drawn away again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So went in, then he started going into...
Philosophy. And Nietzsche and philosophy, things like that. And I wanted to believe, but my heart wasn't there yet.
So for now, happily just going along with whatever Craig thinks.
Yeah. Because, like I said, in the New Age, you don't think, oh, this goes against my dogma or my ideology. It doesn't matter. Anything goes, really.
Okay.
So
you can still almost have your sort of New Age identity. But...
Yeah, almost.
So this was 8 years ago.
Yeah,
then
it's a long time ago.
We've gone the wrong way.
No,
crumbs, 10 past.
We're doing good. We're fine.
10 past. Let's get back.
We are heading back to the car park.
So then what brought you back again, and what brought you back?
I think about a year and a bit ago, I probably reached a peak of not coping very well with wounds, you know, from the past. My anxiety was bad. Everything was sort of reaching a pitch, you know, where I wasn't really in a very good place. And so I listened to constantly, like obsessively listened to Gregorian chant and Hildegard von Bingen. And constantly.
What did you listen to of her? Just her writings or something?
No, the Canticles of Ecstasy, I think it's called. That's her music being played by other people.
Yeah.
She's still a favourite now.
And why Gregorian chant? How did you come across?
It just really gave me a lot of peace, and because I listened to sort of meditative music a lot, and then I found that just by accident and listened to it, and I found a traditional Latin Mass playlist, and I was listening to that, and
do you think that started?
I think that started a lot. I think it's a really powerful thing spiritual tool in a way. And then, so in the New Age,
that kind of touches your soul.
Just real peace, real like constant peace, and it sort of blocks out the inner voice, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then in the New Age, you sort of, depending on your choice, really, because there's no rules. We focused on ancestral work, and I knew that my great-grandmother, she was a Catholic, but I knew that she'd taken her own life in the river not far from my home. So I wanted to sort of honour her. So I knew that she was a Catholic, so I thought, well, I'll pray her a rosary, because I know she won't want my normal pagan gifts, you know, of a nice stone and an apple or something silly like that. And so I did, and oh, it broke my heart.
Saying the rosary.
Yeah, it really did break my heart. But sorry, I get all emotional now. We had rosary beads given to us when we were baptised, so I had them, and I actually had I had a big painting of Mary in our house, which you'll see at our house.
Oh.
We had like an old font, a holy water font, and things like that. We had all these things in our house because I wasn't, offended by
And did you have holy water in
Christianity.
there? Holy water
No,
font?
I didn't know. I just had it up sort of as an ornament.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny is this painting of Mary, the frame is smashed, all over it, smashed. I swear that whatever sort of demons were following me around kept knocking it off the wall, and it's the only thing that has been knocked off the wall, and we were super gluing it every time it broke off the wall. Super glue. I don't know why, you could have just been like, oh, that's broken, we'll chuck it away, but I would put it back up every time.
You sort of officially converted, you were baptised, Holy Communion, First Confession.
Yeah.
With Craig. Craig was leading on that, and you were just, being a surprisingly conservative, new agey wife and conforming to your husband's wish to be a Catholic.
Yeah.
Which is probably the most radical thing you could do as
It's quite I suppose I'm just malleable. I don't know.
Yeah. So you did that, but then it wasn't really in your heart. And then about a year ago, as part of your kind of a new age practice of tell me what was it, ancestral
work, yeah. So sort of giving offerings to your ancestry as a way of healing your own wounds that sort of like is sort of an epigenetic thing, where it's like, again, this psychology crosses over to the spiritual processes, where you think that because of things that have gone on in your family, you can work it out in yourself. That was the sort of thinking.
Yeah. And so you thought about your grandmother.
Yeah.
And that you would give her some gift.
Yeah, some gift of some sort, which I knew, like I imagined her being like, I don't want none of that pagan nonsense sort of thing. So I was like, okay, I left her a little St. Christopher medal, which oddly enough was a bit of a practice in my family to give people St. Christopher medals. I don't know where that came from.
I suppose it's become sort of like culturally accepted in this country, like the St. Christopher's in all the jewellery shops and things.
Exactly, yeah. So that became a bit of a thing. So I left her one of those, and then I said her a rosary. I probably got it wrong at the time.
How did you know how to say it?
I just looked it up online.
And did you read it off your phone or something?
Yeah, I did. I remember it sat in my bed, and I did it, and it felt really, really strange. And looking back now, I didn't realise it at the time, but I felt like something move,
Wow.
And I was in a
So
bit
you'd
of a bad
identified
way.
that as being a moment where your heart changed.
Yeah, looking back, definitely. And we went back to Bristol Latin Mass and just sat in, didn't go up for communion or anything. Just sat in and watched. And we went to midnight mass there as well. And we went to Candlemas in Bath. So we were just sort of going along but not really partaking. Mm-hmm. And then when we moved up here. I don't know. I just thought, right, I want to get confirmed. And
had you moved up here when you said the rosary?
no, that was down.
That was down south.
That was down south. Yeah, we didn't go every Sunday. Mm-hmm. We just sort of dipped in and out, and I slowly started taking down things off the wall that I didn't like anymore. You know, because I had a bit of an altar with, I don't even know what, completely mismatched things like little Roman statues and lots of sort of natural bits and bobs that I'd found, like holy stones, and I don't even really know what it was now, lots of crystals and things like that. And I just sort of slowly started getting rid of them, and I didn't really know why I was doing it at the time, which is strange. And then I found a miraculous medal of St. Therese of Lisieux, and I'd had it for 10, 15, almost 15 years. I didn't even know who it was because I wasn't raised Catholic. I didn't know who it was.
Do you know where it came from?
Yeah, I got it in a junk shop years ago. Yeah, and I was like, I was looking up a saint for anxiety. I was looking up a saint for anxiety, and it came up, and I was like, I recognise that. And I rummaged through my jewellery box, and I had one, and I put it on straight away. So, yeah, so I feel like there's a few saints that are responsible for pushing their way in. I've got one on now, actually. This is a different one. I don't know if I can find it. I've got a couple now.
Who's that? That's St. Therese.
Yeah, it's another
beautiful.
one. Yeah. And it had something on
it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a lovely one. And I got a couple of those, and that was, so it was...
And has she been helpful in anxiety?
Yeah. I mean, it's really unusual now because I don't want to sort of go like, oh, you can convert and you'll be cured or anything like that, you know, because that wasn't even my thinking. I wasn't thinking to myself, oh, this might work, you know. I didn't really even think that it was happening when it was happening, you know. I hadn't really...
And that was different from all the sort of new age practice you were doing before, where you were sort of seeking healing.
I was seeking methods to sort of cope, I suppose, with whatever was going on upstairs. And it's so strange now because I just wake up and I don't have these, these thoughts anymore. I don't feel the same, and it's the strangest thing, to be honest, to just be able to go about my life and not be, have this burden of anxiety and worry. And
in part, how do you think that has been healed? Through like knowing the truth, knowing that heaven, God loves you. That
it's not my doing. That's the difference between the New Age and Catholicism. Like with the New Age, you're trying to gather these practices to ascend and then sort of like escape the weight of matter, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. It's like and problems and and you think if you do all these things, then it'll work. Eventually it'll work, sort of thing. And then when you think to yourself, it's not working, and just sort of, it's like a yielding, I guess.
That is compounds the problem. That it's not working. And you're not able to do it.
And I didn't.
Whereas now with the Catholic faith, it's the grace.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not doing anything. I'm not like I'm not being like some sort of guru or some master or anything. If anything, I don't know that much about theology. It's interesting because now I feel like maybe all of that suffering actually led me here, which is where I'm meant to be.
And I suppose as well, it's seeing what is good and true and beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
And whether you get healed through that,
Yeah.
you don't get healed through that, that is the good, the
I never
true and the
expected
beautiful.
to be healed. I thought that I would just be, so I would struggle with this for the rest of my life. You know, I couldn't conceive of a reality outside of that. So it wasn't like giving it a go. You know, I didn't actually give it a go. I think I was quite resistant because I didn't think of myself as a Christian. I thought that was naive. I thought it was sort of basic, you know? But actually there's such a huge wealth of tradition and culture, and every time I hear a homily I'm amazed, you know. But when I was into the New Age, I was still really into going to visit churches and things because I liked sort of the green men and, you know, like the...
Where's the green man?
So like the carvings, like the strange carvings on the walls and the paintings and things like that. I was really interested in all the quirky little parts of churches, and I would go around looking for them. And I liked graveyards, and I liked stone circles and ruins and
You're
things
an
like
interesting
that.
lady.
So that was the sort of thing I would go looking for. So then the things like relics and saints, that really appealed to me. So I think there's a lot of that medieval culture that really interests people that aren't religious, aren't Christian, and it's a good evangelical tool, I think. But ultimately, I think beauty is definitely the sort of signpost to truth, and the Latin Mass, I think, is really, really powerful and beautiful, and it really, really moved something in me, absolutely.
So from the Rotary up, so it's only about a year ago.
I know. Honestly, do you know what the strangest thing is? I don't even really remember. I had to like really rack my brain to think about like the things that I believed, because I'm sort of like, no, it doesn't make much sense now. Like, whereas when you're in
the New Age
it makes
thing.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. But I'm sort of...
I appreciate that when I think about my behaviour when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And that I just don't understand.
No, where you
It's like a different person, but that was me, and I need to accept that was me and my choices. But
absolutely. It does feel like a new part. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's like being, for want of a different phrase, but sort of born again or something.
Yeah, a new creation in Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
You know. And then how do you think your sort of appreciation, or even as deep as relationship with nature, has changed from being New Age, where it was an integral part, I imagine, of
it was,
what you were doing, to now being Catholic? How's that changed?
I was thinking about this before I went to bed last night. I was like, things like seeing... So in the New Age, you try and find sort of almost signs for everything. And, you know, seeing geese fly by would be like, I don't know, you look for synchronicities. Like if you saw a heron, you'd think that that was something important, and it sort of sounds psychotic, to be honest. But now it's just sort of, nature has always brought me peace, and it still does bring me peace, but I don't have this obsession. I don't anthropomorphize it.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, it's beauty, it's God's creation.
It isn't God.
Yeah, no, it isn't God. Yeah.
And so would you have had that sort of eye for nature before? It's sort of to be revered above humans, or...
Yeah, and I think, the natural world was more important than humans, definitely, in my mindset. So I think that comes into how, like, the environmentalism and stuff being quite anti-human. I think that sort of links in with it, actually. It's almost like, even though we are, you know, intelligent beings, there's like this idea that wisdom is in nature, not humans. And it's like, well, the evidence is that humans are wise, you know, humans are capable of intelligence. So, yeah, it's quite an anti-humanist approach, I guess.
What is the secret of the Grail? Who does it serve?
You, my lord.
Who am I?
You are my lord and king. You're Arthur.
Have you found the secret that I have lost?
Yes. You and the land are one.
You and the land are one. Drink.
I'm wasting away. I cannot die. And I cannot live.
Drink from the chalice and you will be reborn and the land with you.
Percival, I didn't know how empty was my soul until it was filled.
Arthur!
Ready my knights for battle. They will ride with their king once more. I've lived through others far too long. Lancelot carried my honor, and Guinevere my guilt. Mordred bore my sins. My knights have fought my causes. Now, my brother, I shall be king.
Yeah. So why did Craig, 8 years ago, want to start making the move towards Catholicism?
I think probably, obviously that's his story, but I think there might have been an element of conservative beliefs, you know, thinking that Catholicism was a good path for a conservative mindset, which I think it is.
Yeah.
I think he wanted to believe. I think he probably always did believe. But when your unit isn't together, I feel like it's...
As in like your family?
It's like me and him didn't share our beliefs, so I feel like it made it easy for him to just fall away.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then
And that's where the fall away... Yeah, so he converted 8 years ago now.
Yeah, and then he got into reading philosophy and whatnot, and yeah, I mean, he wasn't really the same as me. He wasn't really like New Age.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was sort of into his philosophy, I think. Yeah. But when I said that I wanted to start going, he sort of leapt at it, which is interesting.
1 year ago.
Yeah. He was sort of really encouraging quite quickly. And I was really like, oh. And I feel like part of him was just waiting for that moment.
Yeah.
And now, like, I'm probably more zealous than him. Like, we've become closer as well as we've both tended towards...
I was going to ask about that, your marriage.
Yeah.
How has that changed? What was your... How does it go before? Is it that it might be forever, it might not be forever, you always have that in your mind? Or was it that always obvious? Is there any sort of changes that you noticed?
We've always been... We've always known that we're meant to be together. We've never felt like we were on the rocks or anything, even if it was difficult. And he's always been there for me, even with all of my problems and my anxiety and things like that. He's always been, always done everything he could for me.
And you read, like, do you do spiritual reading?
Yeah, he has a monastic journal. Is that how you say it?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I've never
and
heard of it.
with the hours in that we got from...
What is that?
The Abbey, Pricknash Abbey.
What's a monastic?
So it's got all the hours in it for for monks. We try and do it together, and we pray together as a family at night and we get the dog up as well. Dogs in the prayers, and we all say our Hail Mary and what we're grateful for, and the kids love it because we'll have a big hug afterwards. It's really sweet. Yeah, and yeah.
Yes, there's some change in the family, and the children
are happier. Arthur's just had his first confession, so he's going to go for his first communion soon, and they're going to go for their retreats, their confirmation retreats, which are there's a retreat centre in the Highlands that the sisters are going to be taking them to. Oh. It's interesting with home ed as well, because we were a bit sort of unschooly. Do you know what that means?
Yeah, I do.
And over time I was like, no. Children need structure, children need order, and
do you think you've got that from becoming Catholic?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. Yeah, definitely think so. And I've really like gone for the classics, you know, like focusing on the classics, like with reading, and they even like ringing a bell in the morning and stuff. That's pretty sweet. And they've really thrived,
the start of the day.
Yeah, they've really thrived on it, really have. I think they've noticed the difference in me as well, because I didn't really show the children my internal struggles.
But they can tell.
They can tell, and you know, they're human, you know, they know.
Yeah.
And they've really thrived. Yeah, we're reading Prince Caspian at the moment. There's a chrism mass today in Aberdeen where all of the diocese go and do the
They have their chrisms blessed for the following year, for like the Easter Vigil and the following year.
It's in Inverness. It's at 6. So we were going to go to that, but we'll go next year. And we looked at our calendar the other day and we were just like, church related, like all through the calendar. And I love it.
I was going to say, it looks like you're quite happy about that.
Yeah, I love it. Honestly, I think I would go to Mass every day if I could, which is, I just get this like feeling in my chest. It's like, it's so strange. It just feels like love, I guess. And it feels kind of cheesy to say it, but it's such an unusual sensation. It's really physical sensation. And I get it when I do the rosary as well. And it feels like quite a mystical experience, really. And it's.
Do you have one of your lovely art images around the prodigal son? Because I suppose that's your story as well, isn't it? You're coming home.
It is, absolutely. I really love that story. We did it the other day and on our catechism, and the sister Imelda, she gave such a beautiful speech, and I was just there like, like on theme, like getting so emotional.
Sometimes when I do it, I want to suppress it because I'm just trying to get on with the children. But then somebody said to me, "Don't suppress it."
Yeah.
I really ponder that.
Yeah, I know.
I just have to say it to the children, but I can't always talk, or I just get so emotional.
Yeah, I get really choked up. I start sort of. I'm like, give me a minute.
Yeah.
But I did spend many years sort of suppressing emotions. So I was like, maybe it's a good time to start just bawling my eyes out in front of people. Yeah.
Lucy, if you as a teenager was sat here listening, do you think she'd believe what she's hearing? Or what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to get emotional now. No, I think she probably wouldn't have thought that she lasted this long, if I'm honest. Yeah.
You've got a very interesting tattoo on your hand there as well.
I know, I want to get them lasered off.
When did you get them down?
I did them myself. We did them, years ago. I've got a few tattoos, but I'm usually covered up, so you don't really see it. I also had
and also your style. Do you think you've kept like some style? Because is that black on your nails, and then just kind of?
Yeah, I'm a bit sort of gothy, I suppose. Gothic, but I used to have piercings and things like that, a nose piercing, and I still got like a few, a few different
nice
things.
amber earrings.
Yeah,
but a Celtic cross.
I got tattoo here and on my back. I think to myself, like, I would like them removed, but then I'm like, well, actually, it is where I came from. It is a good witness that I'm, you know, not a cradle Catholic, and I was raised in a New Age home, and I had it, you know, it was difficult at times. So it's good to show people that you don't have to be perfect, you know. God welcomes you as you are.
Yeah.
And it does change you, you know, you do start to sort of, your physical appearance does change because you change inside, but yeah.
I suppose reasons for having piercings and things. I had my nose pierced, I had my ears pierced lots of times. I have a couple of tattoos, and again, I always want to sort of like suppress it as if it never happened.
Yeah, exactly.
And then...
Exactly. I do feel a lot of shame about, you know, things that I've believed, things that I've done. But at the same time, I know that when I see those in other people, I think, wow, what an amazing witness. You know, that's great that they've come from that.
Yeah.
Somebody said to me, you know, they were at their worst. And it was the same for me. Like, they were at their worst. They were a mess, and that is when Jesus came to them, you know, and picked them up. I saw this lovely quote, and it was, you know, the people that St. Paul persecuted are cheering when he comes, you know, when he comes to meet them. And I'm just like, that's such a beautiful idea. Like, that even the people that he persecuted are cheering when he's saved. Yeah.
Lucy, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you for coming. It's been lovely.
Thank you so much for listening. God bless you. Please consider supporting our work. Thank you so much to all of you who have supported our work so far. Without you, we could not be here and continue interviewing lovely families like Lucy's, coming all the way up to Scotland. So thank you so much, and God bless.